This is New York Comic Con 2016, and I'm here with Comics Verse.
Hello, Comics Verse listeners at home. My name is Matthew Murphy, and I'm here at New York Comic Con talking to writer of Daredevil, Uncanny Inhumans, Star Wars, POE DAMERON, Obi-Wan and Anakin, and possibly my favorite, Lando.
Yes.
I'm talking to Charles Soule. Charles, how's your car going?
It's been fantastic. Thanks for asking. Very busy, but that's always New York. It's great.
All right, let's get right into it. Right now at Marvel, we have Civil War II going down.
Yep.
And as the writer of Uncanny Inhumans, there's a bit of a civil war going down between the Inhumans as well. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so as part of the Brian Bendis' amazing Civil War II story, Iron Man Tony Stark kind of attacks New Attilan and steals one of their citizens, attacks the Inhuman headquarters, and takes one of their people. So Medusa authorizes sort of a revenge strike against him, which spirals out of control and turns into basically the Inhumans versus Tony Stark's entire empire across the entire world. So what we've seen in this series, the issues that have come out so far, is like all his stuff has been blown up and destroyed, so he's kind of being left with nothing. Some would say he deserves it, some would say not. I guess it depends on where you fall on the Iron Man Inhumans line.
Now, also, the Inhumans are going, in the future, it's Inhumans versus X-Men. We're going to see the Inhumans go against the X-Men, and there's a lot of bad blood there, but we haven't seen it going. I know the Death of X #1 came out. Would you like to say where the Inhumans place in that war coming up and how they're going to be, after Civil War, dealing with another one?
Sure. I mean, it's a tough life in these superhero universes, right? There's always something going on. So the Death of X just started. That is telling a story. It's a very cool standalone story about. It takes place about 8 months ago, and it's a story of how the mutants and the Inhumans started being at odds, entering into their Cold War. And the basic premise is that the substance called Terrigen Mist, which sort of travels around the Earth in clouds, it gives the Inhumans their powers. It also, unfortunately, is toxic to mutant kind. So the X-Men, all the rest of them, if they breathe this mist, it's really bad for them. So the mutants really want to get rid of that stuff, but the Inhumans are, it's kind of what makes them who they are. So a solution has to be found, but the problem is that there's some pretty aggressive people on both sides of that. Not everybody's a talker, a negotiator. Some people just want to punch and fight and blow things up. So it's kind of a race to see who gets to the solution first, the peaceful people, the negotiators, or the blow everything up folks. So it's really cool.
Now, that world's very different from, say, the Daredevil world or the Star Wars world. As a writer, how do you how does your creative process differ from franchise to franchise?
I have a bunch of different notebooks, which sounds very basic and easy, but each notebook is for each different character or type of story that I'm writing. And so when I'm working on one, I try to just be in that notebook thinking only about whatever that character's world is, and then closing off all the other thoughts to the extent that I can. So I'm working on Star Wars, I'm not thinking about Hell's Kitchen. If I'm working on Daredevil, I'm not thinking about New Attilan or mutants or things like that, very much. So it's always kind of a challenge. It's one of the harder parts of the job, but it's also it's like exhilarating almost.
Now, speaking of Daredevil, you were a lawyer before you were, you're a lawyer now still.
Yep.
Before this, you worked on SHE-HULK with Javier Pulido, and it was her being a defense attorney, a very bright book, whereas now Daredevil, dark, prosecutor.
Yep.
Can you talk about the difference between writing those two books and how it differs on each side of the law?
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much nailed it. It's the defense attorney versus a prosecutor. They're different. It's a different set of muscles that you use as a lawyer to do those jobs. And Daredevil, I think, has always been a darker character generally than Jen. And it was fun for me to tell lighter stories about an attorney opening her own practice, which was kind of what I did when I was starting out. But now it's really neat to write these sort of psychologically heavy, deep, mythological almost stories using Daredevil. So both books are a blast to work on. I miss SHE-HULK, of course, but I'm loving Daredevil, and I hope people are liking it.
Cool. And my final question is, you have a new book coming out at Image Comics, Curse Words with Ryan Browne.
Right.
Could you give our listeners home a peek at what they have in store?
Sure, absolutely. Well, Curse Words is it's the new, here, I'll show you what it looks like. Yeah, Curse Words. It is coming out in January from Ryan and myself. Ryan is the incredible artist who did God Hates Astronauts at Image. I have done my share of creator-owned work, Letter 44 and so on, but this is my first new thing in 5 years, so we're really swinging for the fences with it. The premise is you have a wizard. He pops up in New York City, where we are today. One day, starts doing spells. Spells for money. Everybody's really excited. Pay the guy some money, you get a spell. It's pretty sweet. The problem is, he is actually an evil wizard in a good wizard disguise. He's here to destroy the world. Whether he does it, whether he doesn't, I don't know. You have to read the book. The sort of quick one-liner is it's sort of Lord of the Rings meets Breaking Bad, but funny.
All right, is there anything else you'd like to plug before we go?
You know, my comics. If you see it with my name on it, you got to buy it because it's great.
Again, I'm Matthew Murphy. I'm talking to Charles Soule here at New York Comic Con. I'm with Comicsverse. You can find us at facebook.com/comicsverse, tumblr.com/comicsverse. You can find us at Twitter, at Instagram, at Comicsverse. Find us at youtube.com/comicsverse, where you can watch this interview and others like it. Have a great New York Comic Con, guys.